Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Snowflakes and Holly by Dawson, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Holly. I shouldn't be here. The thought seemed jarring, absurd even, given my breathtaking surroundings. Stevens Pass boasted a ski resort so cheerful and picturesque it was postcard perfect. Blinding white slopes and a carpet of snow-dusted evergreens stretched before me. It was pretty much how I imagined the fabled North Pole. Okay, nothing so cliché or shudder-worthy. The Timber Lodge screamed Santa's workshop, however. Perhaps it was only the corny holiday decorations, but the gingerbread house vibes were unmistakable. The joyful spirit of the place threatened to move even my grumpy soul, not that I would ever admit it. And when I say grumpy, I mean the kind that more closely resembles a hangry gremlin, not a disgruntled pigeon. I mean, my parents couldn't have known when they named me Holly, but I lived up to those prickly edges with all the deadpan glory of a proper cynic. Some days it was better to just throw food at me, dark roast coffee and fish tacos preferred, and run. Bonus points if the coffee came laced with something that made others whisper sociopath under their breath. Buttered popcorn-flavored jelly beans, freeze-dried strawberries, or my personal favorite, licorice ice cream. I drew in a slow breath and focused on the people passing by instead of wishing I were working out my angst by stress baking a fresh batch of ginger snaps. Seemed an appropriate cookie given my present mood. Wherever I looked, guests in colorful parkas tromped around in their plastic ski boots. Smiles brightened their faces and excited voices chatted about their favorite runs and which ones they had wiped out on earlier that day. The phrase Bluebird Day reached my ears several times already. A cloudless day with blue skies, usually after a fresh snowfall. This particular clear day definitely qualified. The happy sunshine atmosphere fought to envelop me whole. Yet, despite my cave-dwelling urges when in crowds, the best thing would be for me to relax, enjoy the company of my friends, and throw myself into a pastime activity beloved by so many. Except, dark, ominous words kept fluttering through my brain. Each thought a crowing conspiracy of ravens. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. I should just turn around and walk back to the lodge. I swallowed back my rising fear, trying to clear my head. It didn't work. A hand rested on my arm, and goosebumps erupted across my torso despite my many warm layers. Cassie considered me. Her brows pushed together, eyes narrowed, her mouth pressed into a sympathetic line. Bella stood next to her, mirroring Cassie's annoying mother hen inspection. I tried to deliver my biggest and most reassuring smile, all teeth and fake wide-eyed wonder. From the expressions on their faces, they didn't buy it. Especially Cassie. Not sure why I even tried. We had known each other since birth. My curly, red-headed beam of sunshine friend was more a sister to me than anything else. You really don't have to do this, Holly. Cassie gently pulled me into a side hug. Promise, you can head back to the lodge and wait. No judgment. It's your birthday, I pointed out. Cassie looped her arm through mine and leaned her head onto my shoulder. True. I know I'm an absolute delight, the delightfulest. But when have I ever missed your birthday? This was a big ask, though. She spoke to me in that sweet, fussy, older sister-like way of hers. I wanted to ski and was fully prepared to do so solo while you drank hot toddies in the lounge. Well, until Bella moved her schedule around the last minute. Just having you here is perfect. It means so much to me. What's wrong? Bella asked. I adored her, especially her fiery tell-it-how-it-is personality. Together we were a powerful force of sass and sarcasm. It's a great day, Bella added. The sky is clear, the hot guys are out in full force. I mean, I'm married, sure, but you two aren't. This should be like an all-you-can-eat buffet for you. As she spoke, Bella gesticulated wildly, as she always did when excited. Skiing looks dangerous, but... Cassie held up a hand to silence Bella, and I bit back a chuckle. Once Bella got going, it was hard to get her to stop. It's, not that, Cassie said. She has other reasons for feeling weird about skiing, even on my birthday. Bella arched a single eyebrow. Like what? Cassie winced and slid me a questioning look that seemed to say it all. I can tell her it's personal and she'll probably drop it, but she is a friend, so... I sighed. Bella drove separately and thus was spared the volcano of anxiety erupting from my pounding pulse and racing existential thoughts as Cassie and I winded our way up the mountain. My freak-out was like a terrible inspirational quote on a meme. You can't appreciate mountaintop experiences unless you climb out of the valleys, and here's a picture of a tree. My family's pain wasn't a dark secret. Most who had lived in Heartwood Falls for more than a year or two knew of my father's terrible accident. True, not exactly my favorite subject. The memories of that day never failed to bring my heart to its knees. The scent of snow, my fingers red and numb, my throat raw from all the screaming. A white sheet-covered stretcher loaded into the back of a search and rescue helicopter I had accompanied. The frozen, battered body of my father beside me so close and yet not there. No longer. I had spent the past 5 years burying each fractured emotion I needed, locked away. Standing on the slopes, however, was enough to conjure each one to the surface as if it all happened yesterday. No point in being cagey now. You know my dad died 5 years ago, I said with a shrug. God, even just saying that out loud still felt strange to me. He'd always seemed so much larger than life, with a big, booming voice and a charismatic personality to match. I was certain that he would be around forever. To imagine otherwise was like pinpointing on a calendar an unknown, blurry around the edges day in the future when the sun would no longer rise. Then that unimaginable, fateful day arrived. While reading in my bedroom, a faint ring from the archaic landline phone my parents still insisted on having echoed through the house. A few moments later, a sound like the keening of an ambulance siren speared through me. A sound I couldn't quite place. Never had I heard a gut-wrenching wail quite like it before. It had taken me a couple of seconds to understand that the noise was coming from my mother. A scream of grief and loss and anguish that still echoed in my ears to this day. Mother didn't want me to go with the rescue team, but I had to. I had to see where the snow had buried my father, where the mountains had silenced his voice, his laugh, his... Bella was still looking at me with a hint of impatience for me to continue. Not that she was insensitive, if anything, the opposite. She cared about me so much that she was eager to hear the rest of my heartaches, to address it head on. That was her nature, and one of the many reasons I liked her so much, even if she put me on the spot a bit. I cleared my throat uncomfortably and continued. Well, what I don't think you know is that he was on a backcountry skiing weekend. There was an avalanche, and he didn't make it. I paused, then added, I was supposed to be on the trip with him. We went backcountry skiing twice a year together, but I got sick and stayed home with my mom instead. It's why Holly moved in with me, Cassie told Bella. Our fathers used to run the tree farm together. When her dad passed away, her mom sold his share to my dad and moved to Boston. Bella raised an eyebrow. Wait. After your dad died, your mom just moved to the East Coast and left you behind? Seriously? I shrugged. She moved in with my older sister, who lives close to my brother and his kids. My aunt had lost her husband a few years back. I watched a mother help their child stand after falling in the snow and blinked back the ache. She wanted me to go with her. I couldn't stomach to leave my friends and college classes behind or move to a whole new place on top of all that. I tried to keep my voice neutral to pretend that my mom's decision hadn't upset me, but of course it had. What child in my shoes wouldn't struggle with abandonment? I was given an impossible choice, to follow my family or care for my own needs. She needed a change of scenery to escape the endless pain. I needed things to remain the same as much as possible to remain in a haven of denial. Being welcomed into the Miller home by Cassie and her parents, Brandon and Kimberly, had helped me during that period, and in ways that felt trite to express. The Millers had always been a second set of parents to me anyway. Bella stepped forward and gave my shoulder a compassionate squeeze. Honey, that's awful. I'm so sorry you went through that. But you know it wasn't your fault, right? There was nothing you could have done to stop it. If you'd been there, you might have been killed too. Yeah, thanks. I mustered up a smile, hoping it appeared sincere, even though her words provoked a brief but deep stat of anger. She meant well, but it mirrored the exact spiel I received from my mother, Cassie, and the therapist who helped me work through my loss during the 2 years following Dad's death. Anyone who learned about what had happened and saw the pain, loss, and regret I failed to hide uttered those same damn words. It wasn't your fault. It was a freak accident. It could have happened to anyone. There was nothing you could have done. You would have died along with him. And my favorite part, the part that few people said out loud even though I was sure everyone was thinking it, it's been 5 years. You need to let go of it. You need to heal and move on. The hell of it, those words were all true. None of those sentiments seemed to make any actual difference deep inside me, however, where it mattered, where a dad-shaped hole still existed in my soul. So yeah, it could have happened to anyone. But it didn't happen to just anyone. No, it happened to my father, to my family, to me. Sure, there was nothing I could have done. Or maybe that wasn't true. Maybe I could have at least held his hand and been with him during those last few moments of his life when he was probably scared and alone. Maybe I could have said goodbye to tell him I loved him one last time. Either way, I would never know now. And okay, I could have died too. I wasn't suicidal or anything like that. I was grateful to be alive, glad I had my friends, family, a job. Even so, wasn't I still allowed to have survivor's guilt? To feel on some level like it wasn't fair that he had died while I stayed behind? I told my therapist that I no longer had those feelings. The truth? I'd grown tired of discussing them with her. Not sure if she believed me, not that I cared. All I needed was for her to nod and not bring the subject up again. She didn't. If you decide to join us, Cassie began, snapping me back to the present, we're right here. We won't let anything bad happen to you. I opened my mouth to reply, to tell her she can't promise something as absurd as that, but she quickly cut in. All you ever do these days is work, work, work. Physical therapist Holly needs to clock out and let young, beautiful Holly come out to play. Even if that means sitting beside the fire, looking like a sultry snow angel who eyes the hotties with come-hither looks, all while throwing back foofy drinks. What Cassie means, Bella added dryly, is that you need to find a man and touch him in a non-professional context. Exactly, Cassie shared a comical nod of agreement with Bella. Everything Cassie said about my workaholic tendencies made sense. I couldn't argue. Before my father's death, I had been so different. More daring, more into taking risks and having fun. Still a hangry gremlin, but not one who hissed at sunlight and large crowds. I used to push myself beyond my comfort zones all the time. I'd loved being that person. Even though my old self tumbled headfirst into a few close calls here and there, my former carefree nature pushed me to experience a true aliveness. Well, an aliveness for my grumpy soul. I missed that. I wanted her back. And I missed the snow. Like, truly missed the snow sliding beneath my feet while winter's breath chilled my face. I gnawed the inside of my lip. All right, let's do this. But if you get sappy on me, I'll push you out of the chairlift. Cassie and Bella clapped and cheered. I followed them to the nearest run, wishing I'd shared their enthusiasm. Instead, I charged into an invisible battle to push my father's death back into the deepest recesses of my mind. It almost worked.